So we got special guest SEO Derek joining us today.
Howdy.
Because we're going to unveil, and people have seen it on Instagram now, hopefully. People who sign up for our new JR Plus program actually got the chance to do a couple of pre-orders on it. But the project that I've been teasing for fucking over a year, the Great White Whale, which was also my ex-girlfriend in college, has finally arrived. And so we're going to smoke it and unveil it today. We have the brand new JR Revival 70s. So the concept behind this beautiful, first of all, look at that box.
Oh, damn.
Right?
That's cheeky.
You getting this, Steve? He's not even doing He's not doing nothing.
You're getting this, Steve. Over there.
Yeah, he's just over there. He's like, no, yeah, I got it.
It's back towards you.
Yep. No. Yep. So, no, yeah. It was already I didn't even know. So the concept behind this cigar
You
is
get it out?
Yeah, hold on. These things are actually supposed to be a little bit easier to squeeze it out of there.
Should probably send it back.
Okay. I will kill you.
Thank you. Oh, wow.
Thank you.
There you go. And there you go. So I wanted to do a project where, because I feel like so many great, factories and blends and blending styles from the past are kind of just overshadowed by like whatever the newest thing is. So we wanted to bring some of that with a little bit of modernity to it. So the concept is that we took every decade since JR has been in existence, which is in the 1970s, which is really where you can kind of tie in the beginning of the premium cigar industry as we know it, because it's right after the embargo. The real boom was obviously in the 90s, but in the 70s, a lot of the major factories and brands that you know of today, Macanudo, for example, Monte Cristo, the American versions really started to come into prominence. And so I wanted to kind of recreate these blending styles that were popular throughout the decade using manufacturers and actual factories that were active during that time to kind of make it truly authentic. This is what we were making in the 70s.
Where was this made?
So the first one is coming out of the Quesada Factory in the Dominican Republic. It uses a Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper, Sumatra binder, and then Dominican and Nicaraguan filler. Now, the cigar is cool enough and a very, very good cigar. But this project, because of this packaging, which is when we were working with our creative team, I'm like, I wanted like this cellar door magnetic close packaging. The art on it, all done by our creative agency, takes its inspiration from like 70s racing stripes on like cars. But it was so long to find a good packaging vendor. We went through 3 different companies that either just couldn't do it, sent us samples that were like just dog shit. Or were just way too expensive. Like, oh, we can do it, but it's going to be like, $60 a box, which is just unreal. You can't do that. And we finally found a great vendor to do it for us.
Is this limited production?
Very limited, yeah.
Very
only
limited.
500 boxes. But the cigars were ready to go and rolled and made last July.
Wow.
So when people say like, oh, and then we let them sit for a year after, we had no intention of letting this sit that long. It just happened that the whole production was rolled and ready as of it was like July 20th. We got like the email like, oh yeah, these are ready. Like whenever you can send the bands and everything over, and we just couldn't get everything. And then we finally got them out this month. So
I will say you did a hell of a job in designing the band. And I know you're not going to take credit for it, but you're at the helm of it. And I love the color scheme for it. I know, like you said, this has taken over, a year?
Over a year, yeah.
And the meetings we were in and all that, finally coming to this, I think it was...
Like even the 70s, like typography that's used, it's
Yep.
really cool. It's very different.
I don't know if we can, I'm not going to mention our creative agency. I don't know if we're allowed to, but we work with a tremendous creative agency so I'm good with... I'm like an editor. I'm good at like seeing something and being like, all right, this is what I like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. But I'm not good as like the initial like idea man. So I basically sent them like several mood boards of like, I want it to have 70s aesthetic, but I don't want it to be like corny or kitschy where it's like too, like disco ball. Like I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make it 70s, but like classy.
I even think from the beginning you really didn't want to do any of that
I
too.
did.
You know,
I really
you
wanted
were
to avoid it.
let's keep it, not minimalistic, but nothing that's too over the top. And I think this, I mean, just even the side here, the 70s, it just.
Thank you. Yeah. So they did a phenomenal job with it, incorporating the JR logo into it. I mean, really, the box just came out, like the opening of the box and how the stripe runs across. Everything just came out phenomenally. You're gonna have a tiny bit of a little bit of a bite, like right in the beginning, but after like literally a few seconds, that's gonna smooth it out. And it's just, I've been smoking through the like my leftover samples. It's just been a tremendous smoke. Perfect morning cigar.
This is like a medium, you'd say? Medium to full?
No, mellow to medium.
Mellow to medium, gotcha.
Yeah. God, you're just a wuss.
No, I know, I'm very sensitive. But this
I'm kidding.
Is nice,
I didn't mean it.
No, this is very smooth. Like so far, I know you said like there's a bite there, but I'm not really getting any bite at all.
Cold draw was really good. Very sweet.
So yeah, this is it. So the plan is, depending on the success of this, we've had some pretty good pre-sales with it through the new JR Plus program, but it's a brand that it has no brand equity. And when I say that, it's not attached to like Foundation or Monte Cristo. It's kind of like a JR brand. So it's going to rely a lot on like word of mouth and like, hey, this is actually really good. Great price point. I think it's $115 for the box is what we're selling it for. And then also we got these awesome custom lighters.
I like that a lot.
Lotus, the Matrix lighter. Let's see if I can put that there so people can see. Beautiful lighter, and you will get that with every box that you buy.
That's
so
really
while
nice.
supplies last. Oh, this lighter's great. I've been using this lighter for like 5 months now. Phenomenal. Take a look.
I'm gonna take a gander at this.
Sure, take a look.
Dang. It was cool because I remember last year when you got all the different samples from Quesada and like we were like smoking through them. I think I had like 2 or 3 of them. And we tried this one, and we're like, "Oh no, this is the one!" Because just like it just hit right away.
And so it was that. I mean, like I said, it was that one, and then it aged for another year. So, not gonna be a lot of talking this episode. We're gonna be really smoking through these.
And you may have said this already. Sorry. How many have you smoked of these so far?
This is my first one out of like the actual batch that we got in for our full order, but I've probably smoked 10 or 11 of like the final version.
Trying to get it right.
Not even that, even after like the narrowing down like what the blend's going to be, but just like, ordering some up without bands on it to like give to different whoever's to try and making sure like, hey, it's been sitting there for a year. How is it sitting? Like how is it doing with in the aging process? Is it going to change drastically by sitting in an aging room too long? And I think it came out phenomenally.
How was Quesada when you approached them about it?
Dude, the guys at Quesada were amazing, absolutely amazing. Yeah, I know. Sorry, people hitting me up on the Slack there. I'm such a popular guy. Everyone wants a little bit. Quesada was amazing. Enrique, who was, I think, maybe their factory manager or one of their procurement guys, was absolutely tremendous. Super easy to work with. We want to be doing more projects with. Honestly, I know Quesada is like starting to get back into the game with their marketing a little bit, but they've always made amazing cigars. And after the experience I had working with this on this with them, there is so much more that I would do with them. They were just so easy to work with, and at the end of the day, that's what if you market your cigar right, it's going to sell.
Yeah.
So you look for things like, all right, but is it going to be easy or is it going to be tedious to work with certain companies? And certain companies, it's very difficult to work for. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things, a lot of sign up. They were so much so that like our invoice payment like kind of got lost for like, and we didn't know it for like 6 months. And then he was like, hey, if you don't mind, could you like Would you mind
Can you pay
sending it?
for
And I'm
the
like, oh my
cigars?
God, yeah, of course. Jesus, man. They were so great. I highly recommend anyone else out there who's in, like on the retail side, who's doing private labels to reach out to Quesada if you ever want to do anything.
But even looking at the wrapper, like it's very oily. It's like a nice wrapper, very clean. The construction's really nice. I'm getting a nice like even burn across of it. Like, it's really nice.
Oh,
man.
I just hit like the crux part that I look for. It gets just smooth and nutty and creamy, like a tiny bit of body to it, where it's not like, it's not like there's no flavor. Like there's a good amount of flavor. But just a very good, like I said, it's not exactly what the cigars were like in the 70s, but you can't just make that anymore. First of all, a lot of cigars in the 70s were Candela wrappers, those green wrappers that are just very fragile, So many of the techniques have gotten better. The cigars have just gotten better. So, but we wanted to give you like the same thing with the packaging, with the design. It's the aesthetic, the vibe. So one of our taglines is "Revive the Vibe." The vibe of what that era was like in the cigar industry, but with a modern twist. I did not want to do one of those harken back, like this is a box like a 70s box. Like everyone does that already, and it's played out. We wanted to do something different. And then my hopes for the next one, we're still to find a manufacturer. 70s and 80s are like actually tougher than you think to really find like a factory that was active, but that's also able to like do something with you. Like Fuente really doesn't do private labels. We can't really use them. Same with Padron. And so the 80s is proving to be a little tough in finding like who we really want to like utilize for it. But then you have the 90s. You can go to a ton of people. Drew Estate actually could probably maybe do for like the 2000s, and then EP Carrillo we want to talk to Tatuaje for the 2010s. Like a lot of these guys, HVC for like the 2020s because he has his own factory. So there's a lot of different options for this, and it's not just a matter of like a factory that was around, but a factory that was like almost defining helped define the era. So like 2000s. Was like Drew Estate with Acid, and then in 2007 or 8 with Liga Privada really helped define that era. Tatuaje in the late 2000s, early 2010s really helped define that era because so much of the branding and the blending that came after that, and you could look at guys like John Huber said it countless times at Crown Heads, Foundation, Warped, all these guys. Pete at Tatuaje opened the door for them to do like a fun theme, like a concept album.
Yeah.
Something more fun. It's themed. It's based on different things. So he's really like the godfather of that. I mean, when you look at like Black Label Trading Company, Dunbarton, Steve was probably going to do whatever Steve wanted to do anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there's a Red Meat Lovers ribeye without pork tenderloin or without the Monster series. So people who really helped define their eras is also something that we really wanted to focus on. So
the wrapper binder filler, is this actually what they used like in the 70s in terms of like the locations? Like where it's actually the origin?
For the most part, I'm not 100% sure. So I know Ecuadorian Connecticut, I mean, they were most likely maybe at the time using just regular Connecticut from Connecticut, but the cost of that wrapper, how hard it is to get nowadays and everything. So again, taking its inspiration from that, but with a modern twist. Sumatra, they were probably using at least in some variation, whether it was Indonesian, whether it was Ecuadorian, Sumatra, they were using it in some way. The Dominican filler and Nicaraguan filler, yeah, they were probably, Padron was around in the 70s. I'm pretty sure they were in Nicaragua. Fuente actually got their start in in Nicaragua, I believe, in like their renewed start, and then I want to say Padron's factory. They had to leave maybe because of the Sandinistas or something, and then the Fuente as we know it was born in the DR. But I think they were in Nicaragua for a while. So Nicaragua's always been where a lot of these guys wanted to go after the embargo, but then after like all the Sandinista stuff and the revolution and the takeover, a lot of those guys then left there And then when that settled down, a lot of them were able to go back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. But then others just went to the DR and have just prospered. Davidoff, Padron, Fuente, AUSA, General, they all kind of built the DR up to what it is today.
Gotcha.
And while Nicaragua has definitely surpassed the DR in terms of production, that's of like the past maybe 5 or 6 years. In terms of premium cigars after the embargo, it was the DR for like 3 decades. Wow. So it was just them. Oh, yeah. I need your guys' honest opinions, though. Do you like it? Like you got to tell me honestly. We can cut it if you don't, but tell me honestly.
I'm liking it so far. I think it's really smooth.
It's very smooth. I'm getting like a lot of creamy notes right now. I know I'm like drinking coffee right now, but I feel like it's a perfect pairing.
That's why it's a perfect pairing.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, it's a perfect pairing with the cigar.
I'm
with
getting
the
that
coffee.
stupid
Soda.
fake sugar.
Yeah.
What's the fake?
Why'd you
sugar?
get the fake sugar?
Because they only had.
Why don't you just get like a Pepsi or something, man?
Should have just got a fucking Pepsi.
You weren't thinking.
I wasn't.
No, but it's very creamy.
But
It kind of reminds me of
Did you
like,
do the cold draw test?
No, I
Sorry.
did not.
Go ahead. Sorry. It reminds you of what?
You know, like the H. Upmann Classic. You know, I think it's the one with the gold label on it. I think it's like the H. Upmann Classic or something like that. I don't know, but it reminds me of like it's like a lighter cigar, so it kind of reminds you like the Monte Cristo White or like the Classic, like whatever the cigar that was. But it's very smooth. It's very easy. It's like creamy. I think it's mellow to medium, but it still has like a lot of flavor. Because I feel like a lot of like mellow to medium or mellow cigars like don't have like really that flavor, especially for more experienced like us.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah,
Like us.
Like us. That's right. I threw it in there.
Yeah, that's a good point on the mellow cigars. You know, having them here and there, you don't get much flavor. But
Like I can't
the cold
smoke.
draw, I'm having coffee as well. And I don't know if I took a sip and then did the cold draw, but it was the flavor of sweetness just hit. And I did the cold draw test for a few minutes to see if it was consistent, which it was.
In the cold draw, you said you're getting a lot of sweetness from it?
Yeah. And I don't, with the cold draw, and I don't know how much, like how true a cold draw test is to the cigar. When
It's
I do,
true to you.
Yes, yeah. When I do cold draw tests, if it's that sweet, I know it's going to be flavorful throughout, because there's sometimes I do cold draw tests and I'm not detecting anything, or it's the same cigar, you know, if it's different cigars, but it's the same kind of notes I'm getting. This was just very flavorful right off the bat.
I have a serious question. Is this sweet tipped?
No. Get out of here.
That is it. Because it also reminds me of the Dumbarton.
Sober Mesa Brulee?
Yes.
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's not going to be a big talking episode because we will actually want to like smoke it. When don't we talk about how?
Here we go.
You're making me nervous. I don't like this.
You know what you did.
What do you think? You're the third party here. Do you think I rigged it?
You didn't rig it.
By chance.
Are we still doing picks with 6, by the way, or is that's
We should do.
I mean, we should.
We
Is
might
that
have to.
gone?
No, I want to
do it like
we have
monthly
to do it,
or like
no,
bi-weekly.
We can do it every week, but like it's just we have to like trim it down like a half hour. It's
Yeah.
got to be short.
Yeah. Especially if you want to bring on Connor for an episode or...
Wait, so really quick, regarding the fantasy, how'd you draw the names?
It was auto... I was asking people, do you want me... Should I do a pool, like pick out the names, I'll film it so you see it, or should I just do an auto draft, like
You did
a
ask me that.
randomized draft an hour before? And I just did the randomized draft an hour before, which I don't really like because who's going to be able to prep? You know, like I wanted to do it on Friday, but like I feel like, you know, we were all busy, so I didn't want to keep bothering. But yeah, I did the randomized draft and I opened it up and I got the first pick. He got 6, which I don't mind that pick.
I was 10th.
But 10th is like you.
No,
at
you
least,
weren't. Warren was.
What was I then? Was I 11th?
You were
No.
before. I thought you were before. We only have
No.
10
You
people.
were after me.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, so you have.
So you were like
8th?
9th. I think you were 9th.
I was 9th. Yeah, you're right.
But here's the thing: 5th and 6th are the worst because it's so long between each pick. Where at least 9th and 10th, you get like two, especially in the first, second round, you get 2 picks back to back. So you're picking up 2 guys immediately that are good.
Yeah. I mean, there's different strategies around it, I think.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying, because there is like actually a big gap between like your next pick. Like, because at least with like the last pick in the draft, at least you're back to back, and
Yeah.
you can like pick your next best player. Yeah, I hear you.
9
So
and
it's like
10
you,
is
you,
a sweet
you
spot.
might like if you're 10, you might pick like, you know, the 10th best wide receiver. You know, let's say everyone's picking wide receivers first, but then you get to pick the first best running back like on your like you're getting 2 top tier guys back to back. Whereas by the time it comes back around for my second pick, like top 5 wide receivers and running backs are gone now. Like I'm already starting to get the dregs.
He has Breece Hall. He has Pat Mahomes.
He's still complaining. Unbelievable.
Don't know. Like,
you ever gonna be happy?
I'm just prepping for when I inevitably throw my phone through the window.
Or delete the app.
Oh, I'm gonna.
Yeah, I know it's gonna happen.
I'm gonna delete the app.
A text message at 2 a.m. 2 p.m.
I'm gonna delete the app today.
9:30 on Thursday night.
Because after what I thought I put together a pretty solid team, and then I realized that week 1 my defense was playing my quarterback, and I'm like, motherfucker. So I had to like drop my defense, pick up another defense. But I got some nice young picks. I got like Xavier Worthy from Kansas City.
That's juicy. That's a juicy pick.
I got my boy Tank Dell.
He's fast.
He's really good.
He's a stud.
I got what's his name? Keon something.
Coleman.
Keon Coleman. Because
the kid from Florida State who's probably going to be the number 1 in Buffalo now.
Yeah, the running back, right?
No,
wide receiver. He's like 6'4".
Oh, that kid. Yeah,
he's like
funny.
6'4". Yeah, he's hilarious.
He's
but Buffalo, they got rid of Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. They have nobody.
They literally nobody. So he's the number 1 guy. You're right. All right, Nick. You did your homework this year. I'm proud of you, babe.
I did.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy with Pat Mahomes, like that's
should be good.
Especially because what's his name, Rice?
Rasheed Rice
is probably going to be out or whatever.
He drove what was a Lamborghini 110 miles per
Travis
hour.
Kelce ain't gonna.
Accident walked away.
Travis Kelce started like showing last year his age a little bit, so he's probably not going to have like.
It's the what's your name? Swift hangover, man.
Yeah. I thought it was funny, and we were talking about it a little bit at lunch with all the guys. Like San Francisco is such a stacked team, which makes it really shitty for fantasy because. Like on any other team, Ayuk or Debo or these guys are like big time receivers, but because there's so many weapons,
they spread the love.
The love, except for Christian McCaffrey. Like you're gonna get Christian.
Because he does it all.
Because he does everything. But like, I picked up Kittle because I'm like I know he was probably like maybe top 6 tight end, but like he's probably the best tight end behind Kelce in terms of like fantasy.
He might be one of the biggest frauds in fantasy football.
Kittle?
Oh yeah, I had him last year. He's a fraud. Can't stand him. Every week, just no points, and then like when you bench him, 15, 20 points. I'm like, you know what?
I think it goes to what Nick is saying is San Francisco has so many weapons. Yeah. It's tough. Like it is. It's tough to pick. I could have gotten Samuel or Ayuk, but it would take points away possibly from McCaffrey.
Right.
So you want to try and have like that one stud on your team.
It is weird that like I didn't want to get
look at that shit, man. Look at that, baby.
That is beautiful.
Woo. I didn't want to get not Sauce Gardner. I didn't want to get Garrett Wilson because I'm like I have Breece Hall. Like it's like this kind of internal thing where you're like I'm gonna put my mental mojo to like I need this guy to do points, so I can't have 2 guys from the same team on it because then it's like, well, who do I want to get the points? And that's why like when I had Patrick Mahomes against my defense, I'm like. Well, I really need my defense to do well, but I really need Mahomes to do well. So, like, what am I going to do here?
Who's the QB for Texans again?
Stroud.
So I got C.J. Stroud, and then I also got Diggs, which I love because you get like double points there if they get a touchdown. Oof.
That's why it's interesting that I wonder how Dell or Nico Collins will do. More so Dell because now Dell's the 3rd option instead of the 2nd. Yeah, but I mean, if he's going to line up in the slot, there's so many weapons.
Yeah, there's so many weapons.
I think him and. Tag is already his favorite receiver. They had even though it was only like 4 games before he got hurt, they had like 4 crazy games where they were just crushing everybody.
Yes.
And I think also like Stephon Diggs is going to be a little bit of a prima donna. We saw that when he left.
He said last year was his worst year of his life.
Where did he go? Where did he come from before Buffalo?
Minnesota.
And so he left like 2 top tier quarterbacks. I mean, Kirk Cousins was top tier.
Yeah.
2 top tier quarterbacks and programs that just like could. He's also a little bit older now. He's got to be what? He's got to be pushing 30.
Yeah. Like 28, 29, yeah.
I was looking when I was looking to pick up like one of my bench running backs, I got Mostert from Miami. And
guys got wheels.
Only led the league in rushing touchdowns last year.
Yeah, did he really?
yeah.
But here's the thing.
Like 27 or something.
But here's
like
the thing.
That.
He got a lot of touches because that other guy, the younger guy,
A chain,
got because he was having a crazy year that he got hurt.
Yeah.
He's back now, but even if they split carries, like even
They're
if he
still
gets like
good.
15 touchdowns,
Yeah, it's
like
something.
That offense is so explosive that
Yeah.
they're all going to shine.
I didn't have the chance to get Tyreek Hill. I don't know who got him. Did you get him?
No.
Did you get him?
I did not, sir.
I don't know who got him. But honestly, the wide receivers from last year, I mean, at some point, because don't forget, Tyreek Hill is not like huge. He's super fast, agile.
Yeah.
But there's going to be 1 year where that's going to like slow down a little bit. He's going to lose his edge.
I mean, he could easily. I don't want to jinx him at all. If someone that fast pulls a hamstring or something like that, yeah, that slows you down for sure.
And then Justin Jefferson, I know, is like this iconic wide receiver, but now he has
No one,
He has
yeah.
no one
Sam
throwing
Darnold.
to him.
Yeah,
So
same.
in my other league, I was the 10th pick, and he fell. So Bijan Robinson somehow fell to me, so I picked him up. But then Justin Jefferson's there. I'm like, I have to pick him up.
Yeah.
Like he's still Justin Jefferson. I know. Look at this,
Showcase
man.
beautiful burn here.
Look at that.
That's how we do it.
I think mine's longer than yours.
I mean, it's not about the size. It's really how you use it.
It's true. It's my wife's.
I'm gonna just ash this so it doesn't fall on my pants. Yeah. Oh, so we're doing like a little picks with sticks like right now. Like a
little reunion.
I have a super random thought though. It's not fantasy football related.
Okay.
Do you find it like in the 70s? It's funny how like if you think about like the beer selections, the whiskey selections, even the cigar selections, like now there's just like so many different varieties and it's like very overwhelming. But then if you look at the 70s, it was basically all like pilsners and like the same old stuff. And these guys just like our fathers, I guess, like they stuck to one beer and that's all they drank.
In our industry, the demographic of the guys who go and they're buying a box of Monte Cristo White once a month. That's what they're getting.
But you think that's like an older demographic doing that,
Oh, yeah.
not the younger,
Oh yeah, definitely.
right?
Because they're not used to the thousands of options that we've just been grown
Yeah.
accustomed to in everything.
I've
Yeah.
given, I've given my dad an IPA before, and he was like, "What is?" This?
Yeah.
He was just.
Yeah.
My dad worked for Budweiser when he was in his early 20s. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
That's just his thing. We were given the option and the luxury of trying many different things, and so you can. It's not just like, oh, because this is new, I automatically like it, but actually. Imagine how many guys who were around in the 70s who like ended up just not liking beer because they didn't like that, but would have loved like Allagash. Like they would have gotten into those beers because they're so drastically different. So that it was like a kind of you either like it or you don't. Now, I think more people like beer than ever before because there's some people who like just drink sours. Like I just like sour beers. That's all I want.
That's crazy to me. But that's their preference. That's their palate.
Exactly.
But even for cigars, like back in the 70s, you would say like there was really no variations in terms of like different wrappers, binders, fillers. Was it all like basically the same, like kind of similar?
There was
to this?
some variation, yeah. I mean, I'm not as into what was going on in the 70s as I am with like the 90s when like the boom started. Like I said, there was a lot of Candela wrapper. So if you look at Columbo, the famous TV detective, trench coat, he was always smoking a Candela cigar.
Wow.
Always. So green wrapper. It was. I want to say it was something like 75% of cigars sold in America in the 70s were Candela, and Candela is like not good. Like at least for me,
wild.
it is just not. It's so bland. And you even see the guys who tried to use it like for fun, like Alec Bradley for the Filthy Hooligan. The Filthy Hooligan used to be all Candela wrapped, and then
Now it's a barber pole,
within
right?
like 3 years of doing that, they're like, we're gonna make this a barber pole, like because it's so fragile that like the band, like the glue on the band would stick to the wrapper. When you take the band off, like half the wrapper would come with it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you can even taste like the paper from the band on the wrapper. It's so thin.
I had the ogre from Asylum 13, and like that, like the wrapper, like so I never really had a full Candela like wrapper like that, but like with the barber pole, it really does accent it in like a really good way, and it really does like pull it all together.
And it can mellow out like a heavier wrapper in a barber pole. So if you have like a dark Maduro, having some Candela in there can like balance it out a little bit. But going straight Candela, I mean, just. But again, this is the foundations of the American premium cigar industry, but it wasn't like there yet. So think of it like this. Think of the premium cigar industry in America in the 70s, like these Candela, very light things. Think of it like the beer industry. It was freaking just Budweiser
Pilsners, yeah.
and Pilsners and
Miller, yeah.
but then there was these communities that were, like in Wisconsin or like, up in New England, like a small communities that were brewing like heavier stuff like IPAs and whatever. In the 70s, like places like, Tampa and Little Havana in Miami, that's where Padron like kind of got their start. They were making cigars much more similar to what we think of today. Mm-hmm. They were just like in their own little community doing it. You know what I mean? It didn't have the great expanse. Like the 90s is when you saw that expansion happen. Also, like the marketing, like Macanudo and those companies like nailed the marketing like throughout the 80s of just like, this is premium. This is the thing. Like the Wall Street guys during like the Wall Street boom of the 80s, they were all smoking Macanudos and Monties and that kind of stuff. Fuente really started like late 80s. They started becoming like a well-known in the cigar community of like, hey, you should really, like the Hemingways and the Don Carlos. The Opus came in like 93, I want to say something like that. And Opus was the same back then. It was like 2 per customer. Like it was always super, super limited. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was like this is the foundling of it, is cigars like this without Candela wrapper, with a nice Connecticut wrapper, Dominican tobacco, smooth, creamy, and nutty. The Dominican Davidoffs, I don't know exactly what year they started. I think maybe in the 80s, but they use this as like a base as well.
I would like categorize this as like a good anytime cigar. So, and I feel like that's the same with like Pilsners. Like it's a good anytime beer.
That's what pisses me off about this, is how much I like it. And I'm like, man, we should have ordered more. Because like I'm definitely gonna buy a box, but like I don't know, because it's so limited and like so pretty. I'm like, but like this is something I would smoke. This would be my morning smoke every day.
Yeah, for sure.
Now the 80s is probably not gonna be like that. The 80s is gonna have it's not gonna be what you're used to yet. In terms of stronger, it's probably still going to be like a mellow to medium, some form of Dominican. But we might have some fun with some wrappers. It might be maybe Cameroon. It might be Sumach. Like, this is when they started futzing around with like that. Like I said, Fuente and the Hemingways and like the Chateau Fuentes were starting to churn in like the late 80s. So like that was... Padron down in Miami and those guys. Ernesto Perez Carrillo kind of was fooling around in Miami in the 80s. So you're starting to get the seedlings of that kind of stronger Dominican or even stronger Nicaraguan cigar in the 80s. So that's probably the direction that one's going to go in. Right. And then 90s, 2000s, like those are easy. I already have like factors and blends basically picked out for those. But 80s, I still got to...
I just think this is such an innovative concept because I think it could hit so many different consumers. It could hit the consumers who started smoking cigars back in the 70s to be like, I've always wanted to kind of go back and smoke something similar to that. And then new cigar smokers can try it and be like, this is how it was, this is how it was back then. And if you're going to be doing that, each decade is going to be really kind of dedicated to what was utilized then or popular back then. I think you could see it in this series of like, I guess, the evolution of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really smart on your part.
Yeah. Well, we want people to take a journey with us. We want, like you said, we want the older demographics to get a little bit of a nostalgia, like our older customers who maybe their dad smoked something like this, or maybe they're, in their 70s or in their 80s and they even smoke something like this. But we also want the younger generation. When I say younger, I mean, of course, still
like
legal
us.
smoking age. Yeah, like us, 30s, 40s. People who are much more used to like a variety and heavy and Nicaragua and all this, to see like, hey, slow down.
Yeah.
You can make a really good cigar like in this fashion without it feeling like dated or anything like that. It's important to realize like you'll have more of an appreciation for the foundation axiom by realizing it kind of started with something like this.
Yeah.
And then you can see, and that's the whole plan of the series, is with each rendition, you're getting closer and closer to what you know now as, your favorite premium cigar. And every iteration is going to take you like a step closer. Oh, okay, I see. Oh, this is when they started adding in like darker wrappers. Or this is when this flavor. This is when this size. This is when this packaging style. It's going to start inching closer, and you finally see like this is how we got to what we have today. You know, I'm a history nerd, and I wanted to do something like that to kind of showcase. But I was also such a fan of, you know, a lot of the cigars I started smoking when I started in the store were like these kind of cigars, because like it was these kind of cigars, these mellow Dominican smokes were still very popular into the 2000s. So they're still very popular today. They're still the biggest selling brands. Monte Cristo, Romeo, Macanudo, Cohiba. Obviously, like boutiques have really taken an uptick in the past 15 years, really the past 10. But so I was always a fan of this kind of cigar. And then when I was on Instagram or you're on Reddit or you're talking to customers who are like our age, like the cigar nerds, even the guys who work for us, and you ask them like, what are some of your favorites? They never mention anything close to this kind of cigar, except maybe like a Davidoff Anniversario. But that's because Davidoff is Davidoff.
Yeah.
But they never say these kind of cigars. They're always like, oh, this one because it's so complex, and this one is medium to full body and has this, or it's got, I love, you know, I'm a big broadleaf guy. And it's a shame because it was almost like a lost art in terms of the next generation. So we just wanted to bring something to that next generation to be like, this is like where everything came from.
It's like a simplified version of a cigar where everything today is very like just different. It's from this area, all different areas. And
yes, simplified, but done with a little bit of modernity to it. Very similar to like the Sobremesa Brulee, and how it's like, hey, this is your grandfather's Connecticut. It's not. The Sobremesa Brulee is way better than your grandfather's Connecticut was. 100%. Way better. But it has the elements there. You see what Grandpa thought he was smoking at the time. You just get to really smoke it. Like, this is what he thought was like this ultimate smooth, creamy experience. If you smoke that exact cigar today, compared to just the technology, the innovations we have, and the blending practices, it'd be like, this is like fine. But we're now able to kind of recreate that in the aggregate, much like Moneyball. Maybe we do like every other week we do like a half podcast, half picks.
I'm fine with
where
that.
we really do a picks with sticks where we do focus on a cigar, and like actually somehow so like
I like talking about the cigars.
Miami hasn't won a Super Bowl since the 70s. Miami has orange. This means Miami's going to win the Super Bowl.
Wow. I love that.
Actually, I know a lot of people think it's a pain in the ass. I do want the Chiefs to just win one more now, because then Mahomes is already going to be seen as like as good as Brady. Like, to win 3 in a row.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
So I would still not, he's not quite there yet, but he's very, very close.
If he wins 3 in a row, because then it's like, then you're going to have at least 3 or 4 off years where, like, you know, your veterans are either getting old or they're going to go to other teams to get their like last bag, and then they have to rebuild with rookies. They're already kind of doing that now with the wide receivers.
Yeah, they're so, Brady and Mahomes are just so different in every way.
Did you see that fucking behind the back
the behind the back
pass he did?
He did it to like screw Kelsey over because Kelsey ran the wrong route, so he's like, I'm gonna make him pay, and Kelsey ended up catching it and getting a few yards.
I saw a really interesting clip of an interview with Shannon Sharp talking about when he played with John Elway. Oh,
I shouldn't have touched it.
That's all right.
But look, it's almost the band.
But where he was like, you don't realize what you got till it's gone. Like, where Elway would put the ball, he was like warning me of like, if you put it over here, he's like, hey, don't run this way. There's a guy there. Or like, if you put it over my back shoulder, he's like, hey, you're clear to let.
Yeah.
And then I would go to the next team, and the guy would throw it to me, and I would catch it, and it's like run right into anybody. And he's like, you don't realize that Elway was actually like leading you with the pass, which is like a whole other layer that I never thought about.
I think Sharp
his
went.
Football IQ was just out.
Yeah, I think Sharp went from Elway to Dilfer, so that's kind of a.
Wait, who was his quarterback at
in Baltimore?
In Baltimore, was it
Trent Dilfer? No?
Was it Trent Dilfer?
When they
won in 2000.
When they won the Super Bowl.
It was Trent Dilfer.
That's the right guy, correct?
I think. I have to.
That team was built on
it was just purely
defense, destroying everybody.
Ray Lewis and Ed Reed.
Ed Reed was on that team. They had a bunch of good guys on that team. Who's Tony Saragusa?
Yeah,
I hated him. He was a bastard, though.
I met him here a couple times. He was a dick.
Oh yeah, really?
Not to speak ill of the dead, but he was a dick. Yeah.
He's from Jersey too, right?
Yeah. So he also owned.
He was in Sopranos for an episode.
That's right. I remember that.
Oh yeah, he when Christopher when Christopher thought that Tony was having an affair with Adriana, and he came in with like a gun and like shot it in the air.
We just saw that episode.
And then he like grabs him. He's like, "I'm gonna pop your head like a fucking grape," or whatever he says.
It's awesome.
But no, he also owned the Tiffany's restaurants. There's like a chain of them now. They're called Tiffs. There's one in Pine Brook that closed down to something else now. There was one. The one in Morris Plains, I actually think is like bumping, and I think they actually get pretty big like stand-up comedian acts there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Dawn offered me tickets one time because she couldn't go. It was somebody. It was like Mike Birbiglia or somebody like big, or maybe Anthony Jeselnik. It was somebody like big was playing at Tiff's in Morris Plains. But he owned that restaurant and ran it. And I knew some guys from Montville where I grew up that like worked there as like waiters, and they're like, he was the biggest jerk.
Yeah. Really?
Oh yeah.
I can't believe that. I mean, I can kind of see that though. I take that back.
Big fat Ginzo from New Jersey. I know we're assholes.
We are assholes.
Yeah, we stink. We absolutely stink.
Like I went to Minnesota. For one business trip at my last job, and the people there were just so nice, and I was being the asshole because they were trying to like do like small talk with me, and I was like defensive. I'm like, what the fuck do you want? Like, you want something from me? Like, I was being the jerk. I'm like, but I don't have to be the jerk.
Yeah, a lot of people when I lived in Florida, they didn't understand why I didn't like
say
walk
hello,
past
right?
by someone and made no eye contact and say hi to anybody. I was like, I guess
You don't do that here, man.
Yeah. You do it here in New York City. People think that you want something, or even here in Jersey, they think you want something from them. So.
Oh, you can cut this part if you want, but you don't have to. 9:24. Jack's gonna be here.
All right.
So
I'm doing that the shelter day that day.
The
But
24th?
I think so.
I thought it was like the 14th.
There's like
Or the
she
11th.
gave us like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah,
But I'll make sure to be here for that.
I'm gonna have the fellas for the Honduras trip.
Yeah.
Get the boys together.
Oh, the boys. Let's go. What is this for?
I have a special podcast.
Derek was
guest.
about it, and then wait, what?
Yeah.
Well, no, I like that attitude. I like being about it, but having no idea what it is. He was like, I'm just ready for it.
Yeah, I'm just ready to go.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not a part of it, but it sounds nice.
So, to finish up here, and I know we're all broke, but
Yes.
for $114.99, would you buy this box of 10 with this lighter?
114 for 10, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I think I would. Because it's a very easy smoke. Like, I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here right now. It's just really easy. Like I said, anytime smoke. If I'm in the backyard with my buddies and they want to smoke something, I would give this to them because I know they can handle it. And it has a lot of flavor. It's
I
just a
wouldn't
good
share
cigar.
it with anybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's limited for sure. I would share it with people I know who are going to smoke.
That's
it's
true.
It's a limited cigar. I'm not handing them out. You know, like it's something where I want to keep as many as I can.
That's actually a valid point.
You know, like I still have, I think, a few Mother Churches from the 50th in my home humidor. I split that box with Greg.
Oh, wow.
So there's certain cigars that I'm just going to keep for a while, right? I think, and I'm not one to buy boxes. I'll either buy singles or 5-packs. And if you're going to buy a box, you got to like.
It's a commitment.
I think but I think it's.
But I'm more
for me, it's got to
comfortable.
be special.
But I'm more comfortable like a 10 bucks and I'm a 20 because like 20 is like that's a lot, but like a 10, like I'm comfortable. with that.
Everything we do from now on mostly is going to be boxes of 10.
But I feel like that's also the trend too.
I was gonna
for
say.
e-com, it's so much more accessible.
And if it's 115 for 10, what is that like 11.50?
a cigar breaks down to.
And that's the average price. So people are like, you can't really complain. I think it's the average price right now.
Yeah.
But
for something of this, I mean, like I said, I mean, the cigars were sitting and for a year. I mean, usually you have to pay extra for that. You know, if I had told them to do that, they probably would have charged me more. But it just so happened that we did it, and they were like, you know.
I mean, they really hooked it up for you.
They were the best.
Yeah,
they were
that's
the
really
absolute
nice.
best.
Seriously,
They were the best.
that's great.
So yeah, guys, September. What's next Tuesday? The 10th.
yes.
So it's going on sale Tuesday, September 10th. Limited to 500 boxes. Make sure to check it out. I'm telling you, it's a good investment, especially for the price. It's if you like a even if you don't, even if you prefer something a little more body, it's got that for you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really great project that I'm very happy to have been a part of. And then you're gonna, I mean, listen, you're getting a $60 or $50 lighter with it. I mean, just this is worth the squeeze. But So yeah, make sure to check it out at JR.
Congrats on this too, man.
Seriously,
It was-
good.
it
No,
was a-
seriously, good work.
I know it was
Team
all of
effort.
us,
It was a
but
big team. Jim helped me tremendously. Brad, everyone. It was a big team effort. So thank you to everyone in our company who helped push this through the finish line. And I hope it turns out well, or else I am very much out of a job. So on that note, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And as always, keep it lit.